right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to episode 3 of Flashpoint, presented by Smarter Sorting. Right off the jump, you're going to notice that there's a third face hovering throughout us. There's obviously myself, Sam, and Akriti, the hosts you've come to love over 2 whole episodes. But now we're going to be happily introducing a third co-host who's going to be joining us, also from Smarter Sorting, Alex Ferguson. Alex, you want to say hi?
Hello,
Perfect.
Alex Ferguson.
Asked and answered. So one of the things that we're going to be kind of changing up here, as we got through the first 2, me and Akriti were just kind of talking about the news. But now that we've done a couple and proved the concept a little bit, we're going to start looping more people in. Alex will become a very familiar face to anybody who's going to be watching, but we're going to start looping in a lot more people. So with Alex being kind of the guinea pig of that, I wanted to get a few lightning round questions out of the way. I know most people, typically lightning round questions are held to the end, but like everything here at Flashpoint, we want the most valuable data up front. So we're going to get that from Alex here. So Alex, first off, who are you and what do you do in the retail CPG industry?
Um, I am Alex, as we've mentioned. I am the leader of the applications team here with Sam and Akriti. And what I do, I don't know, I've worn a lot of hats at Smarter Sorting. I do some dev work. I am a product owner and manager of our main platform. I do some data work. My background is actually in mechanical engineering and data science. So, yeah,
That
I
sort of
do
goes
a lot of different things here, I
that
guess.
sort of goes straight into the second question. Is this how did you end up here? Was this a plan or was this something that like myself you kind of stumbled into?
Uh, when I finished with my training for data science, I was looking for a job, and one of my primary um, focuses for my job was a role that was connected to sustainability. And so, one of the things that Smarter Sorting does and talks about is using data to bettering data to better one's knowledge, which will lead to better decisions that ultimately have a better impact on like the planet. So that was important to me, and I ended up essentially from there stumbling in here. I met with our chief technology officer, whatever you want to call him, Russ Foltz-Smith, and had a weird conversation about electrons and stuff. And then next thing you know, I was an intern and I have been here ever since. So that's been about three something, 3 years and something.
Okay, awesome. And you and Akriti, I know, have worked pretty closely that entire time. Um,
Yeah,
in
Krika was
those,
an intern, the next class of interns after
the
me.
next class over, nice. So, I mean, Akriti's only said good things about you to me, Alex. But for those of you who are listening, Alex and I have also been friends since college when I was roommates with her now husband and on the rowing team with her now husband. In those 3 years, Alex, not only has the company the three of us work at, but the industry has changed a lot. What's the biggest shift in the industry you've noticed? The one that jumps out the most?
I mean, well, I started this job around the same time that ChatGPT started existing. So, obviously, the biggest change is just the use of AI within this company. None of our classification models and all that stuff existed. They were kind of being born around the time that I started. So it used to be that a regs person would just comb through every single product and decide its classification. And we did have like rules and things that could be followed, but they were written in like JSON logic, and before that, even more like Python computer programming kind of speak. And now, yeah, things are just a lot different with what the capabilities are. I mean, even from a year ago, let alone 3, 4 years ago when it all started.
One thing a keen keen-eared listener might pick up on one of the reasons we're bringing in Alex is it's not going to hurt having, not to say anything about Acreedy, but a real technical eye on a lot of the stuff we're talking about. There's been a couple times we've left the episode and we've talked about what we talked about in the episode with Alex and the person she mentioned earlier, Russ, who one day will probably be on this podcast, and that will be a very, very fun episode. Um, and immediately we got insights that we didn't even include in the episode, and it became clear that it might be nice to have someone who has a technical background. All right, only a couple more. Do you have any, you don't have to, but do you have any held beliefs that you hold strong to that maybe other coworkers of ours or people within the industry might disagree with, or just one that you hold very near and dear?
I think that AI, when it's being used, needs to be used for something that is going to do the kind of good that cancels out the costs of AI.
Mhm.
So, the cost of AI, we all know. Data centers are terrible on the environment, on the local populations. They use a ton of energy. Although it is a closed loop, they are still using a lot of water. So it's really costly to do this kind of computation.
Mhm.
So I feel that that cost needs to be balanced out by a benefit that is worth it, whether that is medical advances that are worth it,
Mhm.
chemical advances that are worth it in terms of um, development, ideation, creativity, that kind of thing that we can do computationally now because we have so much access to, the sum of human knowledge that is so much more at our fingertips even than it was when all of this was just Google. Um, I think that kind of thing is hopefully worthwhile and hopefully the expense gets balanced out. Um, I don't really care for like making a shopping list or a workout plan or something like that on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And I
Infinite
also, I
chatbots.
also, as part of that, I think brain friction for an individual is extremely important, and I'm very concerned about younger people having access to all these tools that basically remove that friction from their everyday life. I don't personally choose to do it, and it worries me that this tool that could be really powerful for sort of removing the menial or the too much, like when there's just too
Mhm.
much information to parse through to get to the meat of something impactful. Um, that's how I feel these tools could really be leveraged in a way that is worth it and then open people up to have more time, bandwidth, space, breathing room, etc. for creativity and the functions that really are human, like
Yeah.
making art, making ideas, um, being connected, etc.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that it's just too easy to also skip that part while you're skipping all of the other parts. Like I use AI almost entirely for coding because I am not a coder or a developer. So that is
Mhm.
useful to me because I am producing something that makes an impact, hopefully, using that code. And I couldn't do it if I
Yeah.
did not have these tools. But I like to reserve and practice and exercise and um, really try to value the human side of my brain and forcing my brain to think. And I don't know if that's maybe
I,
controversial working at an
no,
AI
it
company,
definitely
but
like
it's a little bit of a juxtaposition or something that I'm still kind of figuring out how to reconcile within
yeah, I
myself.
mean that's a lot of what we've sort of started in talking about here, but in a much more kind of real way that I think a lot of people are talking about. Where like we talk about the news and we talk about kind of the value of AI a lot, but I think if you expand that out, it isn't just the value of AI, it's like how you should be using it, how it is ethical to use when it's, both environmental and I was talking to a woman last night who just graduated from nursing school who was like, I'm terrified at half the people who are out there because they've turned their brains off and they've like, you never know if you're being the like old person who laughed at calculators, but I really, really don't think that's the case. I think it is so
I
powerful.
think this is a step. I mean, this is un uncharted territory, a
Yeah.
step above anything that we've ever seen, and um, you know, probably in combination with other societal factors like, um, a pandemic wasn't great either. But I think that the generation coming up behind, or the couple generations coming up behind us, is maybe a little bit. Um, they're not cooked. They're not cooked,
They're not fully
but
cooked.
but in a precarious position in terms of like, being able to think and create. And I think being able to think and create is really like the upside of AI, because if I don't have to worry about the code, I can just come up with the ideas.
Yeah, completely.
So,
Um, well, normally in the lightning round, I think moving forward, there'll probably be a little bit more lightning, but I think that that was a very, very important held belief that is going to leak into a lot of what we're talking about. So, for the final question of the lightning round, uh, what's something you're reading or listening to or watching right now that you're really liking outside of the retail industry at all? I won't accept it if somehow you're reading a retail AI book.
I am not.
Okay.
Um, I mean, the Dune Part 3 trailer came out, so I've been watching that pretty
On
regularly.
repeat, yeah.
Big Dune family over here, but I'm on the second book of the Red Rising trilogy in my
Oh,
my
nice.
analog book, and then I have an audiobook called A Fig for All the Devils, which totally different. A little boy is basically becoming the next Grim Reaper. So, um,
You
that's
know, you know,
that's
Creedy,
it. Oh, and my husband and I are working through Grey's Anatomy. We're on like season 5. Um,
Creedy, we never did a lightning round for ourselves. I'd be interested to know if there's anything that you're reading or watching that you've been really liking. I know we're eating up a lot of time with this, but I think this is a good, now that we kind of have the core three moving forward, what's something that Creedy's listening to or reading or watching that you like?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm reading Rebecca, which is a classic, old book.
Rebecca's like my dad's favorite book,
Oh,
other than
really?
anything written by Richard Russo. But yeah.
Um, and then I also it made me think of what Alex was saying. I've been watching this film. I haven't watched it all the way through for some reason, but it's called Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die.
Oh yeah.
And I think it kind of deals with a lot of these concepts of like AI and not using your brain and kind of not caring about others in the community. And so it's interesting. It's sci-fi, but I'm excited to finish it and see, kind of the
Maybe
story it tells.
maybe when we have hundreds of thousands of listeners, we can have a Patreon and do a watch through of all of the stuff that we're watching and liking. I'm reading Babel by R.F. Kwan, which is really good. It's fun magic system. And my audiobook, which is a very short audiobook, is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. It's very interesting. All right. Okay, well we've taken up a lot of your time getting to know Alex and a little bit getting to know the host for the first two episodes, but we're going to dive in and just sort of talk through some of the big AI, tech, retail, CPG news stories of the last kind of 2 weeks. Last week was a crazy week for all three of us, as this week is as well. But we're going to go ahead and get going in. So, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is sort of two notable companies saying that they've saved money with AI. With AI, there's one of the things we talked about last week was how 75% of all AI investment is stuck in pilots. But Morrison's has credited AI with saving them 940 million pounds over 3 years, which is obviously, if you don't know who Morrison's is, because you're in the United States, they're a massive UK grocer. And then Costco disclosed AI driven e commerce surge. If you see me looking to the side like you have for the first two episodes, that's because that's where my notes are. Um, they recorded $470 million alone in e-commerce being driven by AI. This is sort of notable because it is sometimes hard to find real quantifiable savings and or profit driven by using AI. I think the main and sort of uncomfortable part of the first part of this is that it is a cost cutting savings, which is always sort of the uncomfortable part. We've talked about a couple times with Morrison's. It's a lot of head office jobs being cut, which is better than, the people who are actually working in Morrison's losing their jobs. But it is still people losing jobs, which is always kind of the uncomfortable subtext of, is AI just here to replace us? I don't know. What do you guys think? See, so I mean, and then the next part of it is a little bit less doom and gloom, where it's AI driven commerce, like we talked about last week, and with Costco, is we are seeing a dramatic increase in, if you are driven there by using some AI system, you get recommended something, you tend to convert to an actual shopper a lot more. So that's a little bit more just like, okay, that's optimizing LLMs and AI. But on the first one, any thoughts there? It is, I think it's interesting at least that they're saying that these cuts are coming from head office jobs.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it's harder to the it's those are the kinds of jobs that AI is more suited to replace than like someone who's actually physically handling merchandise and like a grocery store.
Mhm.
So it makes sense. I don't know. I it's kind of mixed, right? Like I also don't love the idea of all these people being without a job because their role has been replaced and I would hope that, I don't know. I think if AI would be able to establish a society where these kinds of like not menial, but menial, not menial jobs, but menial tasks being done at these jobs are reduced to the point that we don't need these jobs anymore, then I think we need to have a system in place where unemployment isn't like the end of the world. Maybe it's the baseline that you don't need to have a job because the menial tasks are handled for us as part of our society. And then then we're getting into more like UBI and all kinds of crazy things that maybe we need to consider as a society if we're going to make it harder and harder to have human jobs because we are replacing what rightfully I think it's cool to not, again, it's the same thing of like, if I don't have to worry about my spreadsheets at Morrison's HQ, then maybe I have more time to make art. Or I personally knit and do like fiber arts and stuff. So I could do that. But there has to be a support system in place for people who get basically booted from that if you are going to allow people to transition into like arts and creativity and I'm sure there's a lot of people who want to be writers and people who want to make movies and people who want to do all of those impactful cultural things that make us human.
It's
If
all
AI is gonna if AI is gonna free them up to do that, I think that's great. I also think that we need to have a structure in place where that isn't, you know,
taking it.
impossible. Yeah, impossible
Yeah,
even if you do get AI, if your job gets AI'd out from under you.
yeah. It's all a question of like the resources and money that AI is saving and time, resources including like the time. It's where is that being directed, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's
what
that
the second
470.
side of the equation.
Yeah, it's
Um,
that 470 million pounds savings is just directed into the pocket of the CEO.
of now, oh great, they saved almost £1 billion. Now they got rid of a bunch of head office people. The ones who are left now have 970 more million pounds. Like, is that all that is happening with it? That is going to be interesting to see and see how they can point to, we saved this money, we got rid of these people, but in doing so we were able to free up people to do this and we were able to hire these people, right? Like, and
Yeah,
expand that
or like something
ethics.
that we've heard one of our colleagues um, has said to us before, she's really familiar with the retailer space, that um, what they save on this area of the business, maybe they could put it into, I don't know, sustainability. Something
I'm
like that. Clean up your grocery store, clean up your supply chains, reduce waste, reduce, look into the ethical farming that's going on for the produce that you're collecting, or the ethical production of any of the things that you're selling. Look into your intersection with restricted substance lists, whether they are harmful chemicals or environmentally unstable chemicals or PFAS, or, basically, I saved £1 billion. Let me just become the world's greenest grocer for and sell my products for the same prices. So,
I mean, this sort of jumps around a little bit, but it kind of perfectly blends into one of our topics today, being Alex joining and sustainability being something that she cares a lot about, and also in the retail CPG industry, I think is something people have to be very, very conscious of. The Science Based Technology Initiative, this was reported last week, has officially moved 238 companies off of its commitment list for, they have been moved into commitment removed, which means that these 240 odd companies missed the 24-month deadline to just report what their net zero targets even were, right? So this is companies like P&G, this is Unilever, Walmart, think there was one other big named one, Microsoft. But again, 240 other large companies. It's not like those five and then a bunch of small ones. Never reported what their targets were, so they've been moved off of this list. This was a list a lot of people were proud to be on, talking about. And now, while none of these companies have officially said they are no longer making these commitments or having sustainability goals, it does mean that they failed to meet a 2 year window of telling us what they're going to try to do. So while these companies are saving money with AI, maybe that should be something. I don't know, Akriti, any thoughts there? Alex, any thoughts there on a pretty massive miss?
I'm sure for a lot of these companies, they might have had ideas on how to go about this, but I think because of the speed that AI has evolved and developed at, it's also probably been difficult and they've had to like continue to iterate. And a lot of these companies also tend to move a lot slower in terms of these things, just in any traditional industry. And so I wonder if that's something that they'll also have to adjust to, is in every single aspect of the company, not just, the people who are working with AI or the data engineers, but also the sustainability team has to be able to quickly iterate on goals or establish goals that are centered around reducing, energy or waste while assuming that there will be growth from AI.
I think that generally large corporations tend to go where the bottom line is going, and um, federal uh, the federal legislation, or the situation federally in the United States, is not leaning towards sustainability or regulation at
Mm-hmm.
this time. So I think that it just isn't prioritized, and that's where I'm concerned, I'm cynical, I'm bothered by, okay, we have all these massive savings that we're bragging about, that we're creating via AI, and probably via environmentally harmful data centers, more and more products, et cetera, et cetera, um, without that trade-off really happening, where um, the extra money is going into the balancing act of uh, making it worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And um, money is extra money stacking up is great if it's being used for something other than just growing inequality. But I'm afraid that these these metrics we're seeing are just basically metrics of exactly that.
Yeah. It's worth mentioning just on a somewhat, I mean, for whatever this means, 60% of those companies still have near term targets, whatever that means, but still have like stated targets, but not by what the institution was initially trying to get them to commit to. So, for whatever that means. All right, jumping from one potentially awful thing to another, X has officially opened itself up via MCP for AI agents. So now brands can directly plug their company into X, not only to post and modify posts and operate it, but also receive information. So marketing departments now will be able to kind of poll X, a great place to poll on pricing and brand decisions. Something I just wanted to bring up because we deal with a lot of MCP, or at least I do, and APIs and companies talking to each other, and AI agents having access to X that work for companies and are gathering that information. I think it's interesting that that process of, I mean, it's a form of market research, now can be done purely through an MCP and an AI agent. So uh, I don't love that, but I don't love X. I don't know. Any thoughts from you guys on your end?
I mean, um, it's pretty botted over there already. I I don't know. I guess if that's a new frontier, then maybe it turns out to be, but I don't know. I might be a little slow on this one as to understanding like what the market change is. Since yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't have like a fully formed opinion on this one yet because I would wait to see what actual human feedback they're really going to get from that.
Mhm.
'Cause there's a lot of inhuman feedback on X.
It might just be a lot of bots talking to other bots.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, last thing for today, not really a news story as much. RTIH had a recent, just sort of opinion piece that came out about how retailers have built their tech stacks for a web that no longer exists. I think I just repeated the title word for word. But effectively talking about a lot, as I was reading it, it was like, this is basically what me and Akriti have been talking about for the last couple months and then the last two episodes, where it's everybody can see that agentic commerce, whatever that term means to you, is growing and growing rapidly. Something that we've talked about a couple times that they also credit is the study that says by 2030 there will be $1 trillion, which later has been also changed to $3 to $5 trillion of spending in agentic commerce. And kind of bleeding into the Costco stuff we talked about at the top of the episode, and a lot of other things we've talked about, where it seems like last week, Alex, we talked about how during Amazon Prime Day, the highest conversion rate by far in shoppers were those that came from ChatGPT, where Amazon paid to place ads for Prime Day, even though Amazon and ChatGPT are, in theory, rivals. They seem to be exchanging a lot of money and customers. Uh, and how this article that I'm talking to now also talks about not only is like the frontier of the web page changing, but AI seems to be fixing one of the largest leaks that in web commerce, which is the checkout. Right now, it's the acceptable average of carts left empty at checkout, not left empty, but left full and not paid for, is about 70%. And they list a study that says using AI, and this is pretty close to what Amazon said last week. They say 35.6 something, 35.62%. And Amazon said it was 40%. So that was what they were saying is your conversion rate, and also who's actually leaving carts unpaid for, right? Which is every company out there is looking at a sheet saying if everyone just paid for what's in their cart, we'd all be millionaires. Um, but it's just interesting. The front door for businesses is moving. It's moved before. It moved from brick and mortar to mobile to web to whatever. And now all of these companies have built web pages and home pages and stores that are likely not going to be where people are buying their products. They're going to be buying them on third party marketplaces and through AI. And I think it's interesting that this article just talks about a lot of how companies who aren't ready for that change are going to be sort of sitting on web pages that don't feed customers. And then the ones that are making those changes are making, not all of them, but a lot of them are making those changes without actual product data. And the agents then aren't working. So the processes are all set up and the processes are working, but they're working with data that isn't actually funding it. So I don't know. One of the things that we've been talking about a lot is this shift in agentic commerce and what that actually means and what it will mean to be successful. So they've heard our opinions a little bit, Alex. What do you think? What do you think is the, everyone's talking about agentic commerce, but clearly, at least clearly to me and Akriti, the answer is not a billion chatbots and a personalized AI coach that says you're 6 years old and you play baseball. Here's a baseball helmet for 6-year-olds. What do you think is the actual winning recipe that everybody's trying to find?
Uh,
And then sell it and make $500 million.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know because I've never used like I mean maybe that's an example. I've literally never used ChatGPT or Claude or anything like that for
Hmm.
shopping.
Yeah.
Um
I've used it for recommendations on stuff before. I remember when I was building like my new desk setup, I was like, what cords do I need to plug in from this to this? Because I found an old
and
desk.
then the next step is
Go buy those things somewhere
go
else.
buy those cords.
Yeah, go
Um
to Amazon or wherever and go buy those cords.
yeah. I mean it's interesting. I've definitely noticed that when I watch uh I mooch off my family's Amazon Prime
Hmm.
to watch whatever movies. And sometimes it'll have an ad where you can just click and buy now. And it would, I guess, I presume it would be on my mom and probably go to my mom's house. But it's a new thing. I saw in an ad where it's just on your remote. This product is being advertised and you can have it tomorrow.
This is not something I planned on talking for this episode, but it was something I was like ranting to Cami for those listeners. Cami is my wife. Where I do have Amazon Prime. I know, tomato, tomato. But the ads you get when I hate that when you pause it, pausing is now an ad space, right? You pause and now you're getting a Mazda ad or whatever. But
Yeah.
on Amazon Prime specifically, and we're going a little long, so I won't rant forever, the ads are like for products that could not have possibly have paid for ad space. They're like cooler bags that are like $4 each and are a brand you've never heard of. Like it's clearly Amazon doing the
Amazon.
marketing.
Amazon.
Yeah, for like weird niche products that they like might think you will buy, which like it feels like maybe they're going to be able to cater ads very, very specifically to you, but I don't want a
Yeah, I think you're
$5
getting
cooler bag.
targeted.
Yeah, but
Uh,
why do they think I want a $5 cooler bag in the middle of a, I don't know, Rings of Power episode or whatever I'm watching on Amazon? Think
they
you're welcome
know
for the
that
free
you live
plug,
in
Rings
Austin
of
and it's
Power.
hot and you ever buy beverages on Amazon? I
No,
don't know.
I don't do
Amazon
any of
does a
that
lot
stuff.
in-house. So I'm sure that they're using data from all kinds of things to assert, whichever product they're probably, I mean, that might be agentic even. They're like, here's 10
Hmm.
facts about this guy or the last 10 things he bought. Now add something to it and then make a little AI ad
Yeah.
that can play during his Rings of Power episode.
This
Um,
this goes to another thing that again, I think a lot of what this podcast is going to be is sort of tracking the retail industry and seeing these things that we keep talking about over and over again and who has successes with them. Because one thing me and Akriti have talked about in the past is like Amazon's already doing all of this. So these AI changes that are happening, the like cross your fingers hope for a good scenario is it will allow other companies to actually compete with Amazon, right? Like that's the dream that it makes it a little bit more of an even playing field. But I promised Alex when we were looping her into this that we would keep it to right around 30 minutes, and we've run a little bit over. I have one last question for Alex that everybody who has been listening to this also has. What is your background? Can you please explain what's going on to people? They have not heard of Sortie before.
Oh my bad. I was like, I already said I'm a mechanical engineer.
No,
Uh,
no, 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 no. Your actual, what is that image that everyone's been staring at going, what is that?
this is Sortie, destroying a city.
It is. For
Um,
those of you that don't know, Sortie is
Sortie is our fallen mascot. Um, I still I still like Sortie, so I like to, have him with me. So here he is destroying a city. He was
there are
angry on
things
this
that are
day.
sort of
He found some wrong classifications on this day. It was really tough.
well, Alex, thank you for taking the time and joining. For myself, Akriti, and Alex, thank you all for listening. Next week, we'll probably have yet another person from the retail industry. We haven't figured out exactly who yet, but it'll be a fun surprise for all of us. But that's us at Flashpoint signing off. Thank you, everybody. Bye.